the salad bowl of America. The Salinas Valley of the central coast of California grows about 75% of the nation's lettuce. Your strawberries, artichokes, and spinach probably came from the central coast too. Although only 1% of the entire country's farmland, when something happens here, it's big news.
In 2006, there was this E. coli outbreak in bagged spinach that was traced back to the central coast of California. The same pathogen that was infecting about 200 people and caused several deaths was found on a farm and also in cattle and in wild pigs that were nearby that field. Consumers were really concerned. The industry lost more than $350 million in sales, and this triggered a wave of reforms to agricultural practices throughout the Salinas Valley and throughout the central coast of Northern California.
Natural fertilizers used for centuries like manure and compost were re-examined, some usage even banned. Fences went up to keep wildlife out, and some of the natural habitats wildlife call home were even removed. New constraints, new costs that could put some farmers out of business.
So we've seen how this one food safety outbreak could create these cascading consequences both for people and for the environment. Yet there's been very little scientific investigation of trying to figure out exactly what has changed here in the Salinas Valley. Food safety regulations and the consequences of them could be translated throughout the United States really rapidly and even abroad through the regulation of trade.
With unprecedented global demands for water, energy, and food, meeting them sustainably is the challenge of our lifetime. A challenge Danny and his colleagues in the Nature Conservancy's NatureNet Science Fellows program meet head-on.
So our project is trying to look at two things. One, does removing natural habitat actually have an effect on pathogens like E. coli? And two, what are the unintended consequences of removing natural habitat? The first unintended consequence could be a decline in water quality. Having natural habitat or riparian vegetation along the streams can remove a lot of sediment and nutrients and keep it locked up instead of flowing into the beautiful Monterey Bay. Second, for our purposes, is the loss of pest control or the increase of pest outbreaks. A lot of the predators of damaging crop pests rely on natural habitat to hibernate as alternate food resources for breeding. Without the natural habitat, these predators might decline, the pests might increase, and the farmers might suffer yield losses.
Removing the natural habitats near farms may actually make matters worse. It's time to go to the data.
So there are two parts of our field experiment. The first is building these cages to exclude the predators and then see what happens to the pests, in our case aphids, in the absence of predators. Bag this guy up and take a look at him back in the lab. We're also gluing little insects to cards and then watching how many of them get eaten over the course of a couple days.
Yeah, this is the insect torturing part of the job.
And the second part of the experiment is trying to figure out whether having compost around also benefits farmers through increasing pest control. The idea being that with more compost, you get more soil insects, and then you get more predators feeding on those soil insects.
We're washing the lettuce to try and get all of the insects off of it so we can identify what pests and what predators are on the lettuce. Here's a predator, this beetle. Which one has more aphids in it? It's this one, right? So this is the one without the predators, and it's all aphids. And this one, not only can we see aphids, we can see predators in there. So we've got some brown lacewings and other things that we pulled off that plant. So this is an example of the experiment working.
Whatever the bug data tells us in the end, the results will help feed us.
What we're trying to do here is understand what sorts of actions farmers could take to yield more cheaper food for your plate, but then also pursue conservation at the same time. Agriculture has become the dominant land use of the world right now. Because 40 to 50% of Earth's land surface is in agriculture, it's a really big impact on nature.
Which are big impacts on us, so it's crucial to generate the new science to solve these challenges. The NatureNet Science Fellows program marries the best academic analyses with opportunities to rapidly test them in the real world.
So I am a little surprised that I am currently in the middle of a big lettuce field in college, and as a grad student I worked in rainforests. But it's critically important to pursue conservation also right in our backyards.
These 2-year fellowships are really the incubators of the next generation of conservation science. By working with these future conservation leaders, the Nature Conservancy can produce the innovative breakthroughs that solve our most pressing environmental challenges.
The NatureNet Fellowship gives you this unique free rein to pursue science that both benefits people and the environment. You can't really do conservation without integrating people. That's the best way to get conservation done. I hope that this work helps guide us towards those sorts of agricultural practices that can benefit people and conservation at the same time.
Then we are going over here and looking to see if there's any damage on the lettuce leaves themselves. These lettuce leaves are looking pretty good so far. I'm not seeing much damage. And then finally, we're testing the quality of our product. It's good.